So I thought we could do for Kings fans, maybe if you like this, we could do Reynolds Remembers next. Be a Kings
Yeah,
fan
that'd be
centric
fun.
one. You know more Kings fans, through Twitter, so you could like get more people to show up. Maybe.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, no, that would be totally cool. I'd be into that. I have like that big list now, so I want to read all of them. All right, let me just start cruising through this and interrupt me wherever you want. So, again, like my favorite thing was the illustrations, like the Draymond kicking someone in the balls one, and that was great. The Michael Jordan one down in the paint getting punched in the face.
Yeah, I saw that one.
I thought those were really good. And then, like I said, like the data visualizations, I'm curious, like obviously this set of data points ended in 2018, right?
Yeah.
So I'm curious how much they've changed since then. But I put kind of the most striking ones, down here to just look at like the decline of the mid-range. And then the one that I found, a lot of the stuff that I found the most interesting was also just about how the lines are on the court because of rules that they're associated with, which I had never thought about it that way, even though I know you have to be at certain places on the court and that's how the calls are made. It just never occurred to me that the lines were actually put on the court to enforce those rules. You know what I mean? So I thought that was really interesting. And the other thing that I've often wondered is the shot value one, where it's points per shot. So like especially free throws, what are they worth in the aggregate, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, are they just shitty 1-point shots? But like, no, I mean, he makes the case that they're actually worth more than a 3-point shot on average because of the rate at which you make them. They're worth like 1 point. Again, I think this may have changed over the 5 years since this book came out. But probably not free throws that much. 3-pointers maybe, because I bet there's more of them being shot,
Yeah.
And people are better at them. And then the Steph Curry made shots from 2015 to 16 is like, that's one of the most beautiful data representations I think I've ever seen. Like, I just love that chart so much.
Oh, really? The one where all the shots going in?
Yeah, and it just has him like in the corner.
Oh yeah, I see that.
I just
why are they different? Why are they some of them different colors? He's got those crazy ones from way deep.
That's interesting. Yeah, I wonder if I cut that part off. I think it's because of how far out they are, though.
Okay.
See how like the farthest out ones are like that lavender color, and then the closer in ones are darker. But I don't know why the green one might be like long 2-pointers.
I'm going to it right now, but I'm in the book on my computer on Kindle, but I'm on my phone for this. Obviously, I can't be on my computer for this. I'm on my phone for this, but it doesn't say anything. No, it's probably just the way he wanted to color it, I guess.
There's no legend.
No, there's no for that. There isn't. No, I don't think. Can't see it. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I just kind of put them all in one place, and then I thought there was another one that was like the Chris Paul shot chart and the Allen Iverson shot chart as compared to like Steph Curry's shot chart is like insane.
Yeah, man, Iverson's shot chart is ugly.
Right? But that's what he was. Like, that's what made him so special, is that he was freaking tiny, fast as hell, could get around guys, and still make shots with a bunch of people standing right there, So.
Yeah, I know he was a baller, but I guess his shooting percentages were probably not special.
Right. And I think he was sort of like pre, analytics, if you will. So nobody really looked at that stuff. They just saw this kid, has the biggest heart of anyone on the court.
Right.
So anyways, I mean, we can go down the whole thread, but I think a lot of these are pretty obvious. Like, I love the, the part where he talks about would Michael Jordan be Michael Jordan. It's just, there's no way to know, right? I mean, yeah, you want to say, or the same with Allen Iverson. Would Allen Iverson be Allen Iverson? Like, would they have been able to transition to this, like, finesse game of the 3-point shots if they had to? Like Kevin Love or like DeMarcus Cousins, you know what I mean? Like, it's kind of amazing that they were able to do that within the time span of their career. Especially considering, like, especially DeMarcus being a center, how his career started and where it is now, okay, kind of ignoring the injury part, but he's much more of an outside in player now. So I think that's fascinating.
Yeah. I mean, I guess, yeah, go ahead. Sorry, keep going, because I have something else, but it's not really related to, it's more of a general thing about how the whole, how long it took, because it was 79? Was it?
Yeah.
Yeah, and how long it took for people to, I guess after Moneyball came out, and after Billy Beane really adopted those guys at the baseball nerds. I guess got them. Daryl Morey was at the Boston Celtics as an assistant GM or whatever he was. He was some lower level guy in Boston. He decided to accelerate it all.
Yeah, and I mean, I think I was thinking about that too. So 1979, and really, I mean, Steph was probably the main innovator of the whole of the let's say the extremely excellent 3-point shot. So to me, it's like it was a combination, and so that took what? So 1980, say. So that's 20 years plus 15 years. That took 35 years for the 3-point line to become something that was actually used to its fullest advantage, right? And was that the combination of the rule change, the player type, or just the analytics being applied to it? Because, like, when he talks about Harden, I thought that was kind of fascinating, because I've always hated watching James Harden play, but the way that how he talked about how he was so effective in terms of efficiency, because he would foul hunt, that we know that's the most efficient shot in the game, is a foul shot, a free throw, right? Yeah. And then the 3-point shots, and he would foul, hunt on the 3-point line, and then in addition, having like that, sort of a mid-range game.
Yeah.
So I sort of gained a new appreciation for James Harden, I think. I still am not like a big fan of watching him, but same with LeBron, where when he talks about how LeBron isn't a natural 3-point shooter, but he adapted his game to become a 3-point playmaker, right? And I thought that was fascinating too, because you don't have to be, if the entire game is basically functioning as a 3-point shooting forum, then yeah, you have to be a 3-point facilitator or a shooter.
Yeah, right.
So
and I hope Fox could be that. I quote tweeted. I didn't even quote tweet. I did quote tweet your announcement of this. Hey man, how's it, Lotus Prime? How's it going? How you doing?
Hey, how's it going?
Good. Hope you're doing well. So I quote tweeted that and said, like, I hope Fox can like develop that a little bit more. Even get a ton of assists on threes for Dante and Barnes and Murray and whoever else he can get the ball to. Because I mean, if Sabonis can set a good screen and Fox can run at the rim and just get collapsed upon and pass it out to someone to shoot it, that'd be great. It'd be awesome.
Yeah. Well, I think the thing is,
it's a little.
I think the thing is that you're gonna run a lot of pick and roll between Fox and Sabonis, right? And then you would hope that off of that action you have 3 shooters at the various spots on the court. 2 in the corner and 1 on the extended elbow or whatever you want to call it, or the top of the key or wherever, depending on where you run your pick and roll action to play off of that.
Yeah.
Definitely. I think Dante's pretty good at the wing or the slot or the extended elbow, as you called it. I think Dante's pretty good there. Barnes is good in the corners, either corner.
Yeah.
Who else is there? I hope Murray's good in the corner too. I hope he's good in the corner.
Well, I think if he shoots the way he did in college, then you hope that he would be available in one of those spots.
I think that new there was a thread that Drew did today on Keon Ellis and his 3-point shooting. It's specifically about his 3-point shooting. And that was a really interesting thread to look through too, just because of the activity that he has on the floor as far as cutting and spotting up seems really good. And then his release point is really high. So I have some hope that he might actually turn into something as well. Because like for me, that was a big part of our problem last year was like this lack of motion. Just having guys camp out in the corners,
I think
it's just not that fun to watch, right?
I think Mike Brown is going to bring a little bit of that Golden State offense.
Yeah, that's what I'm hoping.
Yeah, I hope so. If we have the players for it, I mean, we don't have Steph, obviously. None of our shooters are like no one shoots.
Well, I mean, nobody has Steph except for Golden State.
That's a stupid thing to say. Yeah, it's a stupid thing to say. But I mean.
Yeah, that offense is a lot easier to run if you have Steph and Clay and Andrew Wiggins and, guys that are willing to move off the ball and all that. But yeah.
Poole. I don't know Poole's game too well, but he's pretty new to me. But I don't watch Golden State all the time, so I don't know Poole that well. But I know the other guys, and it's hopefully going to adapt some of it to us, to our roster. And hopefully we get one more shooter. I hope at least, someone that's supposed to shoot at least. Hopefully they stay that way when they come to sack, unlike Holiday and Deadman and Bellinelli. And we always got one of those people that forgets how to shoot when they come to sack.
Yeah, exactly. That's like, I always get nervous about chasing shooters because I'm like, but then we're going to open the door and they're going to, like, their shot's going to get blown off course.
Well, I don't even know what wings, like, of the wings that are available in free agency or in that area, like, what of these guys are shooters? Like, is Bruce Brown, like, really exciting to anybody? Is, Gary Payton 2? Gary Payton 2 would be great as a defender and as a wing defender that would, lock down the other team's, number one offensive threat. But, I mean, I don't think that he's going to hit spot-up threes at a 40% rate.
Yeah. It's like, I think in some ways, to me, looking at career numbers and stuff is mildly deceiving too. And again, like going back to the book, I think Kirk Goldsberry talked about it in a really intuitive way when he was talking about LeBron going from Cleveland to Miami and how his usage rate went down so much, but his efficiency shot up. He
also got Chris Bosh and Dwayne Wade at the same time, which helped.
Exactly. Yeah. No, I mean, having good players around you clearly helps. Especially, like, assists are always so deceiving, right? Because you're relying on someone else to make the shot. So if you're playing on a crummy team, yeah, your assist rate isn't going to look that great,
True.
I would like to see to see an advanced metric for, like, I guess, projected assists or something like that, like assists that should be made or something to that range. I don't know how you.
Oh yeah, they have something like that. Let me look that up while you guys are talking. But I think it's like potential assists is the stat. I think that's what it's called, potential assists. Like when someone shot the ball after you gave them the ball, you get a potential assist. If they make it, you get a real assist.
Right, but if somebody shoots a ball, that's like a 50% chance of making it for like a regular player, then you should get like half an assist.
Okay.
You see what I'm saying? Yeah. Because like half the time they're gonna make it, even if they miss it.
Right. But then if they make it, you still only get that half an assist, right?
Yeah, I think so. I think that if you normalize it that way.
Yeah. Okay. That's an interesting way to look at it. You have to know, which they do know now on NBA.com. They know, or NBA knows where they're standing and where the percentages are at that spot on the court. They know that stuff. Of course, if they're guarded heavily, it's a lot harder to make a shot. If they're wide open, it's a lot easier.
Right. So your percentages go up.
Estimate.
Your percentages go up, exponentially when you're open in the corner because that's a shorter shot and nobody's guarding you, right?
Yeah.
So you might shoot 57% on shots from the corner. Thus, if a guy passes to you, he gets a .57 assist.
Got it. Understood. Yeah.
Yeah, that was interesting. I think Will Z had a little free agent thread as well that was talking about Bruce Brown's corner shooting, and he's like 29.7 from one corner and 59 from the other. It's like,
wow.
But
it's interesting because
opponents know that about him also? You know what I mean? Like, wouldn't that be on the scouting report? Like, shut this guy down when he's on, his favorite corner. Like,
I would think that would.
Well, that's good though. That's even that could be good as well because then they know when he's in his good corner, so you got to stay on him. So if Fox or whoever or Mitchell drives to the basket, they can't leave him. They can't leave him to go.
Yeah,
to go to Mitchell or Fox. So they got to let them go to the basket without help.
Plus, you can run an overload on that side with a pin down. Like, say Murray runs a pin down on that side to get Brown, open or whatever.
Right.
So you run like a double action where like Fox runs a pick and roll and Murray runs a pin down for Brown in the same corner.
Yeah. Why the hell not? I mean, I don't know basketball that well, but I know what a pin down is. I know what a pick and roll is. Like, why don't you do both? You got 5 players. Use them all. That's what I say. But I mean, Walton would do a lot of that spread pick and roll, which is basically like a pick and roll up top on either side of the wing, and the 3 other guys are behind the 3-point line, around the 3-point line, and they just stand there. That's Walton's version of it, at least. They just stand there and wait for the ball, and like it's Fox and Sabonis, or he wasn't Sabonis because he was Fox and Holmes, or whoever else was playing center, and they just do that. And it's boring as fuck, and that's what Megalith was talking about. I think was that kind of.
Well, and I think adding DeMontis into the mix and obviously changing out the coach. I mean, but adds like so much motion to the game because you're encouraging good cutting, right? And to me, I mean, okay, again, going back to the book and applying it, I think his premise here was that it's boring to watch exactly what you just said, like a pick and roll at the top of the key. Everyone else is like camped out in their little spots, just waiting to make these threes, Again, I think it's a bit of I think there's been evolution even since this book came out. I think that perimeter defense is better, drop coverages are better. I think that there's bigger guys who are doing really interesting stuff with like their interior defense. That's like Rudy Gobert and Herb Jones and
Jared Allen.
So I think it has. Yeah, no, that's a great one. Like I think it has naturally evolved. But I think we all just said the same thing right now. Is that it's boring to watch guys stand around, especially just camping the corners, right? And so I agree with him on that. I don't necessarily
if you look
agree
at what the Warriors. Sorry, Meg. Go ahead.
No, go for it.
Okay, so what I was gonna say is, if you see what the Warriors do, they're constantly relocating. Clay will sit in the corner and then he'll run off a pick set by Draymond, and then he'll relocate. If he doesn't get the ball in the right spot, he passes it out and then he relocates. That's what you have to have guys do at to play championship basketball.
Yeah. And I guess, okay, so the final, his final conclusion in here is like, should we change the rules to discourage so much 3-point shooting? So like, make the corners bigger, whatever, like change the lines on the court was one of them. Change the paint back to how it used to be, right? I can't remember all of them,
What,
to
to
be
12
honest.
feet or whatever?
I kind of like, I kind of like the idea of like shrinking the paint back down. Like the paint changed twice to adjust to like George Mikan's dominance, right? And then the rules within the paint changed to kind of.
Mikan was 6'10" and everybody else was 6'6".
Yeah, exactly. So it like wasn't fair, right?
Like, yeah, but I mean, at the
so
same time, neither was the sky hook, and nobody did anything about that for 20 years. So
right.
What do you do about that? I mean, I was surprised no one has tried to learn that. I would like to see a sky hook 3. That'd be fun. Probably really hard to make.
I feel like Costa had kind of a cool one.
Oh yeah, true.
Well, I kind of feel like Skyhook 3 was sort of like Dirk Nowitzki, right? Like you had a 7-footer,
Oh yeah.
He had a 20-inch vertical. He could get a shot up whenever he wanted. Like it was unstoppable.
Yeah.
If Dirk Nowitzki came out now, he would be MVP like 3 times.
I think so too. And I don't agree that there's zero mid-range game happening. I think there's interesting mid-range game happening. Like DeMar DeRozan this year. I mean, okay, it didn't totally translate against good teams or into the playoffs, but also they've been together for 1 year. So, like, you got to give it more time, and let the team gel and not have so many injuries and all that stuff. But I'm not sure. Like, I don't know if I would actually be a proponent of changing many of these rules. I did go look and see what rules have changed since this book came out. And I have it in this thread, which none of them they're gameplay related. Let's see. So shot clock reset, clear path foul, hostile act. Then the next
I do think the
challenge.
The reset to 14 seconds instead of 24 actually encourages more direct 2-point scoring off of the offensive rebound.
That's true. That's a good point.
Yeah, because there's not enough time to go set it up again. Yeah. Well, Jerry has an idea. Go ahead, but you're going to finish up your ideas he has.
Jerry Reynolds?
Yeah, Jerry Reynolds. Yeah.
What's his idea?
His idea is as the 3-point line curves, just keep curving it, keep going, and basically eliminate the corner threes. Take them all the way out.
Yeah, that's the thing that
Kirk also has in his book, I think, too.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, that was one of so he had different, like changing the shape of the key, or changing the shape of the 3-point line. Some of them got a little crazy, like each team being able to be their own 3-point line. That's too much. You're doing too much at that point, in my opinion.
That's gimmicky.
That'd be nutty.
Screws with the records. Too, I feel like.
Why do we need uniformity?
Yeah. So okay, then the next rule changes were 2021. I think were mostly COVID related. So it was 15-player instead of 13-player rosters. Relaxed rest. That doesn't really affect the, gameplay and then the play-in tournament was added. And then 21-22, the non-basketball suite, which is like, there's an article in here on what it all is. It's more like how they interpret foul hunting, which I think...
Oh, right. So like the late kickouts and stuff like that.
Yes, right, exactly. And I think that was sort of directly aimed at, like, Draymond and Harden.
And James Harden, yeah.
And, I think James Harden did struggle with those rules this year. And I think other guards did as well, actually. But it's a lot of that, if you go through and read this article, a lot of it's just like the ref's interpretation. You know what I mean? So they can still kind of call whatever they want. I don't know. I
think that I think they really cut down on where a guy would pump fake a guy and then jump into him.
Yeah.
So I noticed that a lot. But even when you got to the finals, it was a lot more relaxed.
Yes. I thought they did a really good job calling the finals playoff series. However, I did watch one of the Boston pressers during the Miami series where they specifically said that they would not call any fouls unless, God, I can't remember the wording, but it was like basically unless you flopped. So they were really encouraging like exaggerated reaction to every foul, right? And it worked like that. There was one game where basically Kyle Lowry kept the Heat in the game by just flopping. That's all he did. And
that's Kyle Lowry anyway.
Yeah, he got like 21 points off of fouls, you know?
Yeah,
So it's still effective, and it's still, they just kind of changed how they're calling it, not, you know, I think you can still effectively draw fouls if you're a great flopper. Yeah, and I mean,
you're always going to have like a crafty guy like Chris Paul or Kyle Lowry or whatever who's going to be able to get you on his hip.
Yeah.
Make something happen.
Yeah.
Totally. I don't begrudge that. I mean, shit. I mean, literally, I think the game, like, they won the game by like 4 points, and like Lowry had like 21, you know, foul conversions. So, I mean, that's crazy. Okay, let me say, because I don't want to forget to say it, because I wanted to address the stuff that he says about the Kings in here. Not because I think he was trying to like disparage the Kings, but I noticed it. So yeah, John and I found the one that was like he says at one point the first LeBron game was not televised because the Kings were a bad team. The Kings were not a bad team. I looked at, you know, they won 55 games that year. Rick Adelman was still the coach. We still have the good roster. It's Mike Bibby, Doug Christie, Rodney Buford, Vlade, Bobby, Brad, Chris Webber,
yeah, that was before
Wallace, Peja, like,
yeah, no, that's just
we were
wrong.
good. Yeah, so that was annoying. Yeah. And then the DeMarcus thing. So he goes into this big thing. Well, I thought he did a good job of coursing DeMarcus's growth as a 3-point shooter. Right. That part was really good. But then he just said like, oh, the DeMarcus Antonio Davis experiment failed after 1 year. Like, it was just a failure. And then he didn't say anything else. Like, he didn't mention that DeMarcus got hurt. He didn't mention that that was the best record that DeMarcus had ever had in his playing career. He didn't mention any of that stuff, you know? So I just had pulled up again in this thread, like, what the record was when DeMarcus was playing, the fact that he missed the last 34 games of the season. Yeah, they were not great against the Warriors, but they didn't have nearly as much time to gel as the Warriors team did either. Mm-hmm. So I still was really interested in that experiment. I would have loved to see that go on for another couple years just to see, you know, where it could have gone.
Well, once DeMarcus tore his
Achilles.
ACL, was it that year?
Oh, I think it was his ACL. I think you're right. Yeah.
So once that was over, they weren't going to extend him the maximum. So
right. So, but yeah, I'm picky and I'm a DeMarcus like loyalist. So I was like, God damn it, you got to at least say like, you know, due to injury, the experiment was terminated. Not that it failed. Like, they still won 48 games that year. That's how many games the Warriors won in the year that they were considered to be good the first time. So I don't think it's fair to say that it failed. But it did end.
Yes.
And then, you know, the last couple things I had put down here is just like, cause he also had that whole section where he talks about how Sprawlball is small ball, basically. You know, like, you need way more athletic players to be running way more often, you know, and these big, you know, honking bigs don't fit in the game anymore. So, but the first thing that came to mind for me was like the fact that And you can obviously say Giannis is like extremely athletic, but Jokic and Embiid were the two front-running MVPs, and I still would consider them sort of like big honking bigs. They just happen to be great passers, but they're dominant.
And good outside shooters.
Yeah. But so I just, I guess what my thought was just to like say there is a place in the game for these players. They can still excel in this game. They're just doing a different thing than they used to do,
I do think there's a little bit, like, when you look at a guy, like, okay, so if we look at, like, prototypical centers of the 90s, let's say, right, like Hakeem or Patrick Ewing or whatever, right, that's more of like a Rudy Gobert type.
Yeah. It's so hard to say what skills they could have, if asked to, accumulated or changed, right? I mean, Hakeem is a great example because Hakeem was such a tremendous passer. Like, I feel like he could have, transcended the style that he was playing, even though that the Houston runs were actually pretty fun and pretty fast, and there just wasn't as much outside shooting, that was more of like the spot 3-point shooting of like.
Well, there just wasn't as much outside shooting period in that period.
Yeah, and there wasn't as many shooters, right?
I mean, inside of the guys like Steve Smith or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah.
Steve Smith, yeah.
I mean, it is interesting too. Like he says, like it affects the economy of basketball, right? Is like, because obviously the highest paid skill is also the star. So now there's so much more, attention, value put on this extreme, efficient 3-point shot, right? And like everybody's got to have it. All 3 and Ds have to be above 40% or they're not good enough or, what have you. And there's only so much salary under the cap to go around. So the best 3-point shooters are, hogging up more of the salary, etc. I think we all know that again, but I still thought it was interesting the way that he talked about it.
It's a good point though that you brought up earlier that it was Jokic and Embiid were like the or 1-2 or whatever 2-1 MVPs, this past season.
I mean, I guess.
And the other guy that we can put in there is Giannis, right?
Yeah, Giannis doesn't shoot threes.
Who is basically Shaq if Shaq was more athletic and could shoot.
Well,
that's a great comparison. Young Shaq, let's say. Yeah. So I think, I think there's been evolution. I'm curious to see if they come up with more kind of rule changes to encourage more mid-range, more movement, and less foul hunting. But
well, they how would they do that? Because let's go back to Harden for a second, because I don't really particularly, when he was on the Rockets and they were doing the full Morey ball, I didn't particularly like to watch him per se, but I respected the intelligence of what they were doing, because as they say in the book, the 3-point shooting foul is 2.55 points per shot attempt.
Yeah.
Which is ridiculously awesome. And like Harden just through working the system got a ton of those shots compared to other people. Way more than other people.
It just puts basketball as a math problem at that point, right?
Yeah. I guess I respect it, and I would in his prime when he was on Houston, if he had a GM like Morey on the Kings, I'd like him on the Kings for sure. He would win ball games on offense. He's not a good defender, but you could try to make up for that with other players. But yeah, I mean, I just want to win. Like I've shared in the other spaces we do. I don't care about how we look. We could be the '80s Pistons, and if we won, yes, bring it on. '80s Pistons. Here we go.
The unwatchable Cavs.
Yes. Whatever, man. Whatever wins. So that's what I think about Harden. But I brought that up for some reason because that was related to what you were talking about. forget what it was though. Now I always get sidetracked. And I forget.
Well, I mean, to go back to what we were talking about with the big men, too, the fact that Jokic and Embiid, were the MVPs of the regular season. I mean, let's put that on the end of it. And I mean, I guess, you could make arguments that they didn't have enough help, or it doesn't translate well in the playoffs, or whatever you want to do.
Well, I mean, I think Jokic probably just ran out of steam and didn't have anybody else to be there. So
yeah,
definitely.
That's I mean, this season I might want to watch out for them this season for sure.
Yeah,
coming up,
I agree. And they do need shooting around them, clearly, so. But the other thing, let me see if I can find it. There's a really interesting Reddit thread in this thread that talks about that somebody went in and broke down all of the 3-point shots that Steph Curry made in the finals, and basically said even if he would have made 2s instead of 3s, he still would have been the leading scorer in the finals. And somebody else underneath it went through and figured out which games they would have won and lost and by how much. And it would have been all the same wins, which I thought was completely fascinating.
Well, it's interesting because when it turns out that when you have a good player, they get good shots.
Yeah.
Regardless. And they score regardless.
Yeah. So when I asked Drew to come up with what his best big defenders, because I felt like there was a crux in the playoffs too, in the Warriors Grizzlies series when Steve Kerr was out sick, and the Warriors had those few weird letdown games where they couldn't quite figure out, they couldn't get their 3-point to go, and they ended up starting Looney. And that was what helped them kind of get over the hill.
Well, so they also ran pick and roll with Steph about 450 times per game.
Yeah. No, that's also another great point. I guess I was trying to look at the bigger picture of how important were big men in the playoffs this year. I felt like Rob Williams was such a difference maker for Boston, because of his interior and perimeter defensive ability, his ability to block. And then a lot of the Boston games came down to minimal possession differential. It wasn't even they could be shooting like shit, but they happened to get 10 more possessions just out of blocks and steals and were able to convert on them, So I thought that was fascinating because as somebody who looks at shooting percentage every Kings game, you can usually tell which games the Kings were going to win or lose this year, because if their shooting percentage sucked shit, there was just no chance, right? Because they had nothing else. They had no plan B. They were not getting inside. They just didn't know what to do at that point.
Well, because they didn't have anybody that would force a shot to get to the basket. They didn't have the bonus except for the last 30 games. And he's the only guy really on the team that can get a foul whenever he wants.
Well, why don't we go to this in your thread? I'm sure you put it in here. It's the shot chart and how much. Yeah, that one that's purple and green. It's near the top. So the greens are basically the 3-point line, which is good, and then the right around the basket. Those are the green spots. And I had this thought. And it's related to a presentation I did for my investing club on Bitcoin, actually. And I thought I'd bring it up. It's basically about standard deviation, how you can raise your average or keep it the same, your return, while keeping your standard deviation. This is a math problem, obviously. Keep your standard deviation, lower it or keep it the same. And that's basically you get return, you get 3 points with a 3-point shot, right? And but if you just live and die by the 3, live and die by the buddy, live by the buddy, die by the buddy, live and die by the 3, you're gonna blow people out and you're gonna get blown out. Unless you have Steph and Clay and Clay in his prime and blah blah blah, a couple of great shooters who are really consistent, you're gonna blow out and get blown out. So basically to leaven it with some attacking at the rim, like making baskets for Sabonis or whoever, Damian Jones or whoever else is at the rim, and then like trying to get to the foul line, trying to like do whatever we can do to get fouled, and then modern NBA, whatever the rules are this next season, just try to get fouled because that's a great shot, so to speak.
Yeah, and one thing that he had in here too that I've always like tried to like make way harder than it actually is it's like it basically comes down to like if you're shooting 30% from three or whatever, every three is worth 1 point, right? I mean, so it's pretty basic math to figure out if you're shooting 80% around the basket. I'm only saying 80% because that's what Chet shoots around the basket. That's not what most people do. But yeah, I mean, exactly. Like if you can't make your threes, at least start going inside. I know it's hard to catch up that way, but you have other options. You can try and get fouled. You can, so you can kick out. I think a big part of it for us this year, to me, was not starting Fox with the ball in his hands every game. He's just more effective that way. He can find his seams and drive easier that way, even if it's a secondary speed burst. I just think he needs to be our primary playmaker, and I don't think we should ever deviate from that. That's my theory, anyway. And hopefully we'll see if it works.
Yeah, the primary playmaker, because we got Sabonis is kind of like, I don't know, he's different type of playmaker, not secondary per se, just different type of running plays. He'd be the DHO guy as far as like.
Yeah.
He gets the ball and he has with one hand, he's moving it around above his head with one hand. I like that when he does that. He's just like, who wants it? Who wants it?
Yeah, I would think he'd be like the primary target, right? He should be the first option every single time. Like, because he's also a fantastic playmaker. Oops, sorry, I muted everyone. He's also a fantastic playmaker, but he doesn't need to be bringing the ball up and down the court. And if De'Aaron has the ball, he can see whether the defense has gotten set up yet or whether they've been able to set up whatever pick and roll situation they're going to set up for him and whether he can navigate it, right? Because he's actually pretty good at navigating simple, when he's aggressive, right?
Right.
The thing I'm excited for to see is, just how, I mean, Sabonis is going to open up so much for us inside too, like for like inside outside game because of how well he does inside and how defenses have to like, guard him. Like they can't, like a lot of our bigs people haven't really been like that terrified of to like guard, but he's kind of someone you sometimes may have to double if he's having a good game. So he's going to open up a lot on the outside for our shooters. Now we just have to find shooters to be able to hit outside shots. So that's going to be the hard part. And that's what Monty's going to have to figure out in free agency. But I think that's what, we haven't had a big like that in so freaking long that can actually, draw that, inside and be able to, kind of leave guys wide open kind of thing. So I think I'm looking forward to that the most, to see how his game's going to.
That was like, I also think, as much as we think that scoring has to be outside, like we were just saying, it's also extremely efficient to shoot very close to the hoop, right?
Oh, of course.
And those little like drop-off passes at the hoop and stuff like that Demonis does are fantastic. Like, I love the little give and go game with him and Damon Jones in there.
Mm-hmm.
I think we saw it with him and Chimezi. We didn't really see it much with Rashawn, but like we just did not see them play together very much. But I feel like if we end up keeping Rashawn, that could be something that they refine,
I think too, like I'm excited. I think if they do keep Rashawn at least until the trade deadline, like I feel like I'm maybe talking too early, so knock on wood, but like I feel like he's gonna have a really good bounce back year because like he's a competitor. He, you know what I mean? Like he works hard, and I've seen videos of him like going in the gym and like he looks in really good shape. And like I just think last year was just a freak, year for him. Like with all the stuff he was dealing with the eye, injuries, and then his I think his cousin passed away. I was really close to him, and then obviously, the whole custody thing with his child and his ex-wife, and that stuff. So that's gonna, unfortunately, take a lot away from someone trying to, play basketball. But so I don't blame him for last year, like, at all. Like, he had some, stuff going on. And so I think this year, like, it's gonna be, if they do keep him, like, I think he's actually gonna, like, have a good bounce back year. And, like, I'm excited to see that push shot back again. Because, I mean, let's be real, like, the year before, he got his contract, like, that push shot was money pretty much every time he would shoot it. So
Yeah.
like, I think with Sabonis there too, I think that could be something that they could, like, work with, like, a little push shot, kind of game. So
well,
yeah, that'd be good for Sabonis.
Depending on who is our backup point guard, which, like, again, I know, like, nobody thinks it's that important, our backups, but I could definitely see Davion and Rashawn finding a similar chemistry to what, like, Tyrese and Rashawn had at the beginning of the season, where it's like, you just see them both out there and you're like, oh, my best friends, like, something's gonna happen. Tyrese is gonna, make a really beautiful pass, and Rashawn's gonna get that little hookup. So I feel like Davion and Rashawn could have something like that in a backup type situation as well. So
first, Rashawn, I want to talk about Rashawn for a second. If he gets the ball, like he's gotten many times before Sabonis came, and he's at the top of the 3-point line, top of the circle for the 3-point line, and the center is like in the paint, just hanging out, just like totally abandoning him at the top of the line, letting him pass, because they know he's not going to shoot. If he's like that this next season, I mean, if he wants to play with Sabonis, he wants to play more than 14 minutes a game, and I'm sure he does. If the team wants him to play more than 14 minutes a game, to play with Sabonis, he's got to shoot sometimes from outside.
And he can. I mean, he can shoot. He's hit some threes. Like, he can shoot.
A long time ago, he did. Yeah, in Philadelphia, he shot decently from 3 a long time ago in Philadelphia because Hinkie wanted him to shoot. I'm sure, so they made him shoot. So, but like when he's wide the hell open like that, just pick up the ball, pause for half a second, and launch. And see what happens. Do it once or twice a game. See what happens.
Yeah,
he's wide the hell open.
This might sound idiotic, but like I was reading through some thread somewhere, and somebody was like, how come there's like people who are great passers who are bad shot makers? Why don't they just pass the basketball to the basket? Like, wouldn't that be easier?
Right.
Same thing with Rashawn. Like, maybe this sounds idiotic, but why doesn't he just make a longer push shot? Like, he's so great at that shot. Like, just do it farther away.
Well, he does it from the free throw line now, so he's already getting pretty far with it. So
there, real quick, the Rockets and John Wall reached a buyout, and he's going to sign with the Clippers.
Oh shit, that's
interesting.
Cool. I love him. I hope he can rejuvenate his career.
I think that's a good fit for him too, with Kawhi and Paul George. Well, I think maybe they'd be able to do something.
What is he signing for, a mid-level, or?
It doesn't say what it just says that they're reporting that they reached a buyout and Wall plans to sign with the Clippers, but they haven't announced like a contract or anything.
I don't know if the Clippers have much money. They're way over the cap.
They have so many guys. They were trying to shop like Luke Kennard, and I know Nico.
See, that's the thing, is I wouldn't even mind like getting Luke Kennard, because I feel like on like shooting he would help our team, but I just would be scared because I feel like he would come to us and he'd completely brick. Just like freaking Marco Bellinelli, he was like freaking daggering from 3 the season before, and then all of a sudden he came to us and he was just hitting bricks. I was like, are you kidding me? Like, of course. Well, but it's just it's like the players that are surrounded. Like, that's the thing. Like, we get these guys that can like hit these outside shots, but we just don't have like that other talent like in other places to like level their game up. But now I feel like we kind of have like, we have Fox, we have Sabonis, we have, now we have our draft pick, we have Harrison, like we have guys who can create now that I feel like more than we had before. So I feel like guys like that might actually kind of succeed a little bit better in Sacramento now that we actually have some decent talent around us. But before it was like you'd had like Ben McLemore and shit like that. It was like, okay.
Aaron Aflalo. I was trying to remember the guy after year after.
Oh my god,
it was Aaron Aflalo.
Well, look at what's his name, freaking shit.
Dwayne
he went
Dedmon?
to the Knicks. No, why can't I think of his name? He went to the Knicks and he was like, yes, he's like balling with the Knicks. I'm like, what the fuck? Like, he was so trash with us, and then he goes to the Knicks and he's like dropping 30 points a game. I'm like, oh my god, like what is happening?
So, okay, there was one other thing that I forgot to talk about, and like I've never really thought about it so much, but the pop time chapter in this book where he talks about how long it takes you to go from catching to releasing the ball.
Mm-hmm.
And I found that really fascinating. And the fact that like Evan Fournier was on the list way ever many years ago. Who knows if his pop time is still that good. But I found that like to be a really convincing argument on that's like a stat that I'm hoping they're also looking at. Like not just percentage, but pop time. Because if defense is the next thing to catch up to the 3-point line, then you want those really high pop time guys, right? So that's
for sure.
I mean, they used Kyle Korver as the example, and clearly he was just totally fantastic 3-point shooter. And I don't know how you even calculate pop time, but I thought it was an interesting concept that I hadn't really taken into consideration when I was watching guys before. And then he talks about Steph's pop time and stuff like that too. But it's just that much less time that a defender has to get to you. Like you're saying with Rashawn, like I think his pop time is pretty slow. So he's got to be pretty wide open so he can, get it up and launch it.
Yeah, like unless he's doing the push shot, his release is pretty slow.
Yeah.
Right. But if he's like, you all know what I'm talking about. He's in the what they call the delay set, and he's at the top of the 3-point line, gonna pass it to someone. That's what he's gonna do.
Yeah.
Everyone knows that's what he's gonna do. So the center is like back in the key, just hanging out, trying to disrupt, cutters.
Yeah.
He needs to shoot it.
Well, I feel like the saying is like pass up a good shot for a great shot. But I feel like we did that, and then we passed up like the great shot for like a terrible shot a lot of the time.
Yeah.
And part of that was like having Buddy on the team.
Yeah. That's why I
so
would like
awful.
to move Rashawn though. I don't dislike him at all, and I like him as a player too. But if unless he can play with Sabonis, I don't want Monty to take his damn sweet time to like come up with a deal. Like find a deal, get him somewhere good, and get us something back good. I mean, he made deals. He's done deals. Obviously, he got Sabonis. He got a Dante, but like took him forever. God.
I'm curious because I saw someone posted like a potential starting lineup for next season. I saw so it was De'Aaron Fox, Dante DiVincenzo, Harrison Barnes, Keegan Murray, and Domantas Sabonis. Do you guys think that'd be a decent starting lineup to roll out with?
Yeah, I don't know.
I'd like to upgrade Harrison, but I'm not sure if we can. Like to me, like none of the free agents
he's a good shooter.
A serious upgrade. Yeah, he's a great shooter. He just doesn't shoot.
Yeah.
That's the thing with
annoying.
Harrison Barnes too is I feel like with the players that we've had around him and the system, we've been asking him to do too much, and I think now he probably doesn't have to do as much. So
I also like get stuck on is he a 3 or a 4? I don't totally buy Keegan as a 3.
Yeah.
So maybe that works together,
I think Harrison Barnes is good as a 3.
Okay. I'm not sure. People I respect think of him as a 4. I think because defensively he's a 4. Like he's not going to guard a smaller.
No, defensively he'd have to, but
he's more like a small ball defensive 4. Like lots of small ball 4s in the league now, so like he could guard those guys and. Although his defensive on-off is
technically
terrible.
is probably a 3. But
6'3",
I don't want to get too high on our own supply. No, he's 6'6", isn't he?
No, they measure it. That's why he fell so much. At the combine, he was 6'3" and a half.
Oh wow!
Who?
He plays bigger than that. That's
he looks bigger. He looks bigger.
Keon Ellis.
Oh.
Yeah, he was in the second round solidly, I think, and then he got measured and they dropped him a lot. So
well, he was really thin too. I know that.
Well, he's less than for 6'3". Right?
Yeah, that's weird.
I mean, the thing about Barnes also is Barnes is a good free throw attempt rate. He has 50%. What does that mean exactly? A number of free throws attempts per field goal attempt. 50%.
Wait,
good.
what? number of
free throw attempts. Number of free throw attempts per field goal attempt. So like one field goal attempt, he gets 2 field goal attempts, he gets 1 free throw attempt from that.
No, he's really good about getting to the line.
Yeah, he's good at getting the line. In Sprawlball terms, he's good.
He's very aggressive.
He just needs to be more aggressive. That's all. That's the main thing.
That's how he starts the season out, and then he kind of like digresses. I mean, he started off last season, he was averaging like 20 points a game, and then he just fell off again because I think he had that foot injury. If I remember correctly, he had like some kind of foot thing going on.
He's just not good on defense. He's just slow, I think. I don't know. I want to give him the benefit of the doubt. I really do. Like you said, Liz, like I think a lot of it's like asking him to do too much.
Yeah.
And he was probably trying to cover like a lot of the time. I think that's why having Mo in the lineup last year was so effective because, again, my theory is that Harrison was better on defense because he didn't have to cover both wing positions when Mo was in the game.
Yeah. I just am curious to see like how, because I feel like Mike Brown too is going to definitely bring like a different, just a different feel for everything. So I'm kind of excited because like he's more experienced and you know what I mean. Like Luke Walton was just god awful. Like he should have never been hired, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So it just with the experience that Mike Brown has and the years that he's worked with and you know what I mean, like just his system. I mean the way he was guarding like his defensive schemes in the finals was just like insane. Like having those guys just buy into his defense during the finals, it was literally insane. Because like if you think about it, Game 6 they started out, it was like Boston went up I think like 14-4 or some shit, and then they never looked back. Like the Warriors just freaking went on, and just their defense locked in for some strange reason. But you see Steph out there playing great defense. I was just like, what the hell? I'm like, this is insane. So I don't know.
Up?
I think I'm excited for Mike Brown, the Mike Brown era.
Hey guys, you guys do it.
You're a little muffled, but
muffled.
Yeah.
Okay.
So last thing on the book, very last thing, is just that in this Thinking Basketball episode, the very beginning of it, they talk about the death of Sprawlball, which I thought it was just an interesting little, I don't know, it's like 5 minutes or something where they just talk about how perimeter defense is catching up with Sprawlball, and partially because, I mean, this is a draft episode, so they go into talking about like Chet and Wembanyama and stuff like that. But, I thought it was an interesting listen. And that podcast is really good normally too. Just,
you like him?
Yeah, I've had to skip a couple. I'm weird about podcasts. I feel like I'm really weird. I've gotten really weird about, like, criticism. Like, some of it I'm okay with, and some of it, like, I feel like the Kings just get slammed for being the Kings. Like, but it's not totally based on anything. And so sometimes I have to bail out on podcasts.
Okay.
I mean, they spend a lot of time talking about winning basketball, so the Kings aren't a subject a lot of the time. Try to say it nicely.
Gosh, if we could just get back to our winning ways, would be nice.
That's that podcast is pretty good. He's very intellectual. He's a smart individual, very intelligent, and kind of plays that to the hilt. He uses his brain to try to. He could be doing particle physics or something like that, but he's doing MBA instead. He's that kind of guy. Although he's not really a science guy so much, as much as Goldsberry is in this book, but he's more like a, I don't know, philosopher.
I'm so curious, like, if Kirk Goldsberry has evolved his thought processes on any of this stuff, given 5 years. I mean, and I guess and maybe I'm taking just that simple premise that watching 3-point shooting only is boring. away from it and trying to think. Like he said at one point, like nobody wants to sit around and watch Boogie shoot 5 threes in a game. I'm like, I do. Like that sounds fucking awesome.
I kind of disagree with him. I don't really like. I wasn't a big fan of Shaq. Not as far as like a LA Lakers player or whatever. I mean, like as far as his game goes, and Shaq, Hakeem was fun. Not obviously, but he was fun for me. Like Shaq was more like he had skills, no doubt, a lot of skills, but he was also kind of like strongest man, in any region for a 500 miles. So like he was going to get to the and tallest. He was going to get to the basket, and dunk it down. So that was not fun to watch. Post play for me, and mid range play is interesting. I guess like Jordan, dribbling and whoever else plays like that, In the mid range, that's fun, but I like threes. And I don't like a bunch of people in the paint or around the paint, clogging it up. Defenders, I like the spacing of the new game. I don't know. It's not a big deal for me. I guess each their own, though.
I guess I really like the idea that basketball is an evolving product, right? Is that from era to era, we're watching something different. And I like how he really emphasized that, rules can and should be changed to directly affect the play on the court and to address things that maybe have gotten out of hand. And I actually think some of his solutions to too many threes were, like I said, like mine would probably be to make the key smaller again, make the paint smaller, maybe not the smallest it was, but maybe the second smallest. I think that would be an interesting adjustment, or like extend that 3-point line, like so it's all the way out of an arc, so people have to struggle to shoot those corner shots. But I thought those were really interesting innovations that could be fun to like try out in the G League, or I feel like what is it? What's the big three? Like the big three, they do weird stuff. Like they have a 4-point shot, or they play on just half a court, or like, maybe even like taking some stuff from there and trying to incorporate it into the game if you feel like it's not exciting enough. However, like, let me just say, I think it's pretty exciting. I think the 3-point shot has significantly increased the excitement and made it better.
Well, I just don't think, going back to like 3-pointers, I mean, I just don't think that you can put that demon back in the bottle. Guys are going to shoot from further and further out where they aren't guarded. I mean, and when you're talking about athletes at this level with this amount of practice, they're going to hit, 40% of them.
Yeah. So do you think, like, based on what you just said right there, like, do you think it would be legitimate to make the 3-point shot harder, or to count on the gameplay catching up, like, defensively to the 3-point shot being where it is?
Well, I think if you want to stop people from being able to shoot, you need to reinstitute hand checking.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, if you allow guys to hand check each other like they did back in the 80s and 90s, the early 90s, then yeah, you'll see immediate reduction in 3-point efficiency.
Yeah, that's an interesting. Yeah, I like that one as well.
I will say that as defenses have been evolving, if you look at the Milwaukee Bucks, who tried to give up just mid-range jumpers and floaters, where they were trying to take away the corner threes and net rim attempts. So as the defense evolves, what they're willing to give up will change. You'll have these guys who shoot 45% from the corners, or if you close out hard enough to make them take a little baseline floater, they're shooting 40% on those as well. So it all depends on how defenses are going to change how they cover everything. Like, I remember the Spurs took away Harden's step back, and they gave him only floaters and mid-ranges, and they completely took him out of the playoff series, even though he's one of the top scorers that year.
That's an excellent point right there too. And I think that's like the Herb Jones frenzy, right? That's like why everybody wanted to find Herb Jones. I know some people translated that as finding like second round value, but I specifically feel like there was other people who were like, this is the future of defense, is these really agile, uh, space covering bigs who can get out to the perimeter, right? And really close out, especially on guys with, again, bad pop time, right?
Or just like guys that can switch everything at every position.
Yeah.
Right? So if you have a bunch of guys who are, ooh, what was that? Is that me?
Oh, sorry, it's my.
Oh, okay.
My
So
laptop.
if you have a lot of guys who are, 6'6" to 6'10", and they're all reasonably able to defend their position against everybody else who's 6'6" to 6'10", then you can shut down a little bit of that getting people open thing.
Yeah, for sure. I don't remember, and I added, like, in my little thread here too, I added perimeter defense, and, but I also don't remember, and switching is like totally prevalent now, right? I feel like that's been like a last 3 years innovation. And then drop coverages too. And maybe I just don't know enough about drop coverages to know if they were getting played before. But I feel like that's, again, like more of an innovation to, combat some of this perimeter activity. You know what I mean? Obviously it doesn't directly, affect it, but it affects the playmaker, you know? So, and it's like so useful for a team. Again, that goes back to like the Herb Jones, Rob Williams, these guys who can easily switch 1 through 4, 1 through 5, 2 through 5, whatever it is. So I feel like it's evolving to catch up personally.
Well, I think you're always going to have a reaction to any sort of, evolution. So that's just the natural state of the game. Is defense is always going to be playing catch up against whatever offense is available. If 18-footers become, prevalent because everybody's taking away, 24-footers, then suddenly you're going to see a lot more zone, or you're going to see a lot more, of whatever that would change that. So
Yeah. And I mean, for what it's worth, we're talking about, even he's talking about absolute, like, top guys in the league. He's talking about, there's still only one Steph, right? I mean, there's still only one James Harden. Like, I don't think we really saw James Harden this year, but I mean, obviously, I think, Morey's trying to recreate that efficiency basketball in Philadelphia, and it looks like he's going to try and get like PJ Tucker back, and maybe I think Eric Gordon could be had, and that kind of thing. So I mean, I think that'll be interesting to see too. But like, just there's one Steph, so that's what makes all of this like work like it does. There's one LeBron,
well, and
and
time is undefeated.
yes, exactly, yeah. So yeah,
So
I think other guys can come along and catch up to them, and be them or what have you. But right now, anyways, I don't see anyone. I know people are like celebrating Jordan Poole. Like Jordan Poole's good. He's great, but he's not Steph. You know what I mean? Like it's different.
there's only just so many generational players, right? So, like, let's take this draft, right? There's no we don't think there's not a generational player in this draft where we look at it and we go, oh yeah, that's LeBron. Like Stephen Davidson, the issue with that was that people thought that he was too small, and that
Yeah.
when he got to the next level, bigger guards were just going to be able to swarm on him. But the problem is that you can't swarm on a guy from 35 feet.
I think that like the story about him refining his shot made me gain a lot of respect for him. I mean, I obviously know he's one of the greatest players in the game right now, but it's sort of like begrudging for me because I'm a Kings fan and, it's annoying.
And we could have drafted him at number 4 and
but at the same time, that story about him committing so much effort into making his shot better when it was already really good was, I definitely have a little bit more respect for him, for doing that. And I also, I think he was lucky to get coaches who recognized, what a fantastically useful skill that was, and encouraged him and supported him and, freed up, playing time for him by trading Monte.
Well, yeah, I think that, freed up playing time is the main thing. Because if you go back and look at those early Mark Jackson Steph years, where Steph's taking like 5.3 threes a game or something like that, it's not good.
Yeah. And I mean, I don't know how much, I know that Draymond gets a ton of credit for being the difference maker as far as getting them over the hump into championship territory, where they finally found their smaller, agile defender who could, help more and, and get Steph more space. But I also think having Steve Kerr as your coach, whose primary skill was, again, tremendous shooting, helped.
Yeah, I think so. And that goes back to goes back a little bit to a sort of a Lute Olson type of thing, like going all the way back to Arizona, right? So you had Steve went to Arizona. You look at another guy who went to Arizona under Lute was Gilbert Arenas. These guys that played in that system where they were encouraged to shoot at that level.
Yeah, that's interesting. I hadn't really made that connection, but yeah, now that you say it, that makes sense.
Damn, Keegan Murray's already disowned. He doesn't dip his pizza in ranch. How could he? How could he do that to us?
You were the chosen one.
The real question is, does he like pineapple on pizza?
Did you see where he said he never had sushi before?
Yeah, do you think he has by now? I mean, he's been in California for 4 days.
Where'd he grow up? He was in Iowa for school. Where'd he grow up?
Hopefully someone takes him to sushi.
Yeah,
I think he's from Iowa or Nebraska. He's from a farm or a farming
Cedar Springs, Iowa, I think is what they kept saying whenever.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, because he was a 3-star recruit going out. So yeah, he wasn't Duke or whatever, North Carolina. Yeah. Okay. Well, yeah, give him some good
Cedar
sushi.
Rapids.
Does anyone know how we're gonna get the classic games televised? Because they play this weekend.
I have them set up to play on playback, but it was a little confusing figuring out so they have a schedule, and then the schedule says subject to change, but they're all on NBA TV and ESPN and ESPN2, I think. Okay. And I have them set up on playback, so it should, if you're a member of the room, it should notify you if they start playing, in there as well.
Some people don't have NBA TV on their plans. Hopefully it's on ESPN2. I think is more common, but NBA TV is the bigger plan for me.
Is Bobby
more expensive?
Is Bobby Jackson coaching again?
Jordy Fernandez.
Yeah. Oh, he is, okay.
Yeah, Jordy's going to be the coach this year.
Yeah. And then I was confused. They kind of were oh yeah, and Lindsay's going to be there, but I don't think they were supposed to say that yet. But I think we find out which coaches are coming back and which are leaving when their contracts are up, which is the 30th.
Yeah, the end of the year is the 30th, so.
Yeah.
So. Hey, what do y'all think about doing a space on June 29th that evening. I mean, free agency starts at 3 p.m. on the 30th. We think, still think, but that's probably what's going to happen. So
I thought it was 3 p.m. on the Friday, the 1st.
Okay, so I was in a Spotify Live with Mark Stein.
Okay.
And he said it's June 30th at 6 p.m.
Eastern time.
That's what he said, but he said for some reason it hasn't been like published.
Yeah.
But he thinks the reason it hasn't been published is because it's written into like the free agency guidelines or something. So for some reason they didn't think there was like a need to republish it or something like that. Anyways, that's what he said. So he's usually right about stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, so we could do like a noon one, but like I'm working and I'm at home, but I'm working, so I don't know if I want to do a noon one or whatever. Probably more like a 29th in the evening would be better. I feel like for me. If you guys want to do one at all.
I can't do one during the day because I'm at work.
Yeah.
I actually have to go into the office.
I think Ben was really hoping to like come too, and he's in New Zealand, I think, or Australia.
Yeah.
Maybe Australia. Like 6 or 7 is better.
Okay, great.
Yeah, that'd be a good time.
Yeah.
Yeah, just to talk about who we think we want and who's available and blah blah blah, any trades, whatever, you know.
Nothing's gonna happen, you guys. I'm just telling you. Nothing's gonna happen.
I know, I'm not getting my hopes up.
I think the Kings have a possibility to use some of their contracts to make some things interesting.
Yeah. I'm just trying to set expectations low. Like, I don't want to like do the same thing we did with the draft where it's like we, fall in love with all the wrong people and then get broken up with.
Right.
It's just a mess out there.
Oh, I fully expect it to be like Josh Okogie and like Bruce Brown and that's it.
Hey, I actually kind of dig that.
I wouldn't mind.
I'm not offended by that.
I wouldn't mind Bruce Brown at all. Yeah. I don't ever get, like, I'm just trying to never get excited again. I'm just like, okay, like, I'm excited to watch basketball again, even if we suck, because I'll still watch, but I'm just, like, not going to get my hopes up anymore, because once we do, like, we always get let down, so.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm ready to get hurt again.
Yeah, same. Fuck it. Fuck it, man. What's the point of being a fan if you don't have unreasonable hope and completely unreachable expectations?
Well, I mean, I think that the expectation is that, the Fox and Sabonis that you saw at the end of last season continue to be the Fox and Sabonis that you saw, and you added a sharpshooting 4 in Keegan Murray, and everybody else and you have a full year of Terrence Davis, and you re-signed Dante DiVincenzo for a full year, and, maybe that gets you to 39 to 42 wins.
Yeah. No, I love everything you just said, honestly, and Davion stays Davion. I don't even care if he's, like, way better. Like, to me, he was fantastic. I know people started freaking out about his offensive, the minutes he was playing and how great he was offensively, but like I had so much fucking fun watching him on defense.
Right. No, I didn't even care about his offense
that,
really.
And I think he's gonna get better. But yeah, I'm just worried that everyone else is also gonna be way better in the West. That's the hard but even if we just beat everyone else besides the people in our conference, maybe that's enough.
See, the thing is, though, because a lot of people just don't have the cap space this year. I mean, so many teams are just, like, over, or they're not going to be able to do as many moves, so I think it's going to kind of be the same, but, I mean, we'll just kind of have to see, unfortunately, what happens.
Yeah, I mean, the idea, supposedly, that all the media has been throwing out is because it's a weak free agent class and everyone's up against the cap. The only way for teams to improve is trades. So
yeah.
Hopefully that means there's a lot of movement. But, I mean, if we get to, like, July 3rd or whatever and there's no trades yet, I'm going to be extremely disappointed.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, there's not many teams willing to sell in the offseason, right? I mean, they're trying to, like, pull on the full season tank. There's not many of those teams. So
Well, I
a lot
think
of
a lot of
buyers.
people too want to set up for next season because the free agent class next season is going to be really good. So
Okay,
I
that's a
think
good point.
some teams are going to start tanking early for the Wembanyama thing too, but that's probably like 4 teams max, that know they're tanking already, kind of thing. I'm gonna shut the space down in a few minutes here, but Eric, I wanted to let you just make any comments you wanted to about Sprawlball and like how it's affected your thinking about basketball, or what your favorite things were about it, or whether you think the arguments that he presents have sort of changed in the time since it was published, or
So I read Sprawlball and then Mid-Range Theory back to back. I know I've talked about to you about reading Mid-Range Theory as well. I feel like Sprawlball itself, since the 3-point shot has become so evident, like he did predict kind of that change, but some of the ideas, like for example, I think he discussed like Kevin Love's going to be an excellent player for many years to come, and he's a backup bench player on the Cavs who
right.
Were on the play-in. So the arguments themselves are very interesting, and if I had read it at the time, it would have been mind-blowing. But they've been talking about this. Like I also follow Seth Partnow on Twitter, and then other like the Athletic and stuff like that. So most of the ideas were super foreign to me when I read it this last year after Christmas. But I mean, excellent book, and same with Mid-Range Theory.
Cool. Yeah, I'm excited to dig into that one as well. All right. Well, I think I need to go help my kiddo and might shut this sucker down. But thanks for the discussion, all. And I think John and I were thinking we might read what's it called? Reynolds
Remembers is the old version of the book, or Tales from the Sacramento Kings Locker Room. Stupid title renamed by a publisher that bought the rights or whatever. Idiots. Anyway, good book though.
Yeah. But how long do you think that we should leave to read it in? Like a month or 2 weeks, or I haven't looked at how many pages are.
I want to participate, and I'm out of town the next 2 weekends, which is like my prime reading time, really. So I'd appreciate like 3 weeks at least. But as far as the book size, okay.
Yeah, let's read like a book a month, a basketball book a month, and then we can read other stuff and whatever we want to do.
That'll also be after summer league and free agency, so you don't have competing spaces with the free agency and the summer talk.
Oh, that's a great point. Yeah. All right. Cool. See you guys. Go Kings.
Talk to you guys.
Go Kings. Talk to you later.
Good night, guys.